Hello everyone, my name is Angelica and welcome to my channel. For today's video, I've prepared 3 new Christmas decoration ideas. This time they will be all done with the clay. I will be using air dry clay and polymer clay. I know that many of you like this product so much, so without any further ado, let's get right into the first project. For my first project, I will need 3 different size star-shaped cutters. It will look better if they gradually go smaller. And the smallest one is big enough to fit the candle. Like always, I'm using Das air dry clay, but you can use whichever you have access to. I take quite a big piece of it and roll it out flat to the same thickness, which is about 5 millimeters. I take my cutter and create 3 stars. I remove them gently from the surface and tidy the corners. I tap them and smooth them out. Starting with the biggest one, I make few small cuts at its center part, and then I take clay slip, which is basically mixture of clay and water, and apply small amount of it on the cuts. Take my middle-sized star and place it on top of it. I do the same with this one and then place the smallest one on top of it. Find round shape which size is similar to the candle end which you are going to use. Mine is not deep enough to go all the way through, so I do it in small parts. I take the excess clay out and then smooth out the inside part. Before I leave it to dry, I again tidy all the edges and the surface. Altogether, I've created 2 of them. After 2 days of drying, they are ready for the next step. You can always give them a slight sanding before painting. I went with the black color acrylic paint with some white and gold paint splash. For my next project, I've decided to use polymer clay. I believe this decoration also can be made with air dry clay, but I've thought thermo clay is a bit stronger and this is quite small ornament. I'm going with white color as I will be making snowflake shape. I take small bit of this clay and roll it out flat. Honestly, I'm not the biggest fan of polymer clay, found it quite hard to work with and I prefer air dry clay much more. But as I've mentioned before, this clay is much stronger and sometimes makes more sense to use it. I have this snowflake shaped template which I drawn myself. If you have cutter in this or similar shape, that's even better. Or you can just print the template. I place it flat on my clay and with thin tool I trace the line around it. Then using sharp and again thin knife I cut this shape out. Cutting polymer clay might be tricky sometimes, so instead of long cuts when you pull the knife, I do up and down movement with it. With this clay you can't use water to make the edges smooth, only by smoothing it with your fingers. As they are fragile now, I move them onto the baking tray and place them in the right position. To create 3D ornament, I've made 2 snowflake shapes, and to be able to attach them together, I have to create cuts which will allow me to slide these 2 parts together. Cut has to be at least half of the total snowflake length and wide as the thickness of this shape. And to be able to hang it, I create a little hole for the string, which has to be on the part of the snowflake where the cut is. I cover it with kitchen foil and bake for 30 minutes at 110 Celsius degrees. Once they cool down, I slide them together and attach the string. For this project, you have to find glass container which you want to use. I start with measuring how big piece of clay I will need. I take the circuit of this glass and its height, but I don't actually measure how tall it is. I measure where I want the top of the roof to finish. If you want, you can go all the way to the top. I take a big piece of air dry clay and roll it out flat. I try to roll it to rectangle shape as this is what I need for this project. I cut one edge straight and then make the exact shape I want. I move it onto the glass and connect 2 ends together. I use my fingers and damp sponge to make it smooth. I take the pointy tool from my clay tool kit and start designing the house's shapes. I make the walls, roof, windows, sometimes doors and chimney as well. To make it more interesting, I make each house slightly different. Once the whole piece of clay is designed with the houses, I can start cutting out the parts which I don't need. I leave the house walls and start cutting where the roof starts. I dip the end of the knife in the water for smoother cuts. Then I move to the windows and doors. Before I leave it to dry, I want to make it as smooth and clean as I can. For the bigger surface, I use damp sponge. For windows, I dip paintbrush in the water and go along the edges. I also try to make the glass clean, as this is easier to do now than later. I leave it in the original color clay, as painting it might be very tricky with these all smaller windows. Let me know in the comment section which project was your favorite and why. Don't forget to check out my Christmas playlist, which is full of festive ideas, or if you are only interested in air dry clay projects, there is another playlist for you as well. If you enjoyed today's video, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe to my channel for more. And for now, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video.